From the moment people began to design structures, they were both inspired by and limited by their natural surroundings. Originally, shelter was the primary program of these structures. And as time went on, they began to evolve to incorporate some of those modern conveniences that we all expect to find in buildings today. In fact, we became so consumed with isolating ourselves from the outside world that the natural systems that we had come to rely on to drive form, function, and even aesthetics have all but disappeared.
So a question we often ask ourselves is, if architecture and nature were in a relationship, what would their Facebook status be? What brings the two of us together as architects and guides our work is a passion and a drive to change and improve the built environment through a systemic interrogation of how we build buildings today. Okay, so the real question we often ask ourselves is, why does an office tower or a house in a climate like a city like Boston look, and more importantly act, like a house or an office tower in Texas, when Austin looks like this and Boston looks like this?
Okay, so when we first started our practice and we struggled to find the answer to this question, and, well, struggled to find work too, we realized we needed to look back to where we had always found inspiration, natural systems. Why can't our built environments engage the same kinds of dynamic principles that drive the natural world? So it became as simple for us as looking at how a spider builds. So as a spider builds by creating a dynamic structure, he connects to his environment, creating variable guidelines, and he creates a new environment for himself. So we realized we could borrow techniques like this from the natural world and apply them to existing construction systems.
We realized that adding small, simple changes within these frameworks could set off large, complex visual and spatial reactions and potentially stay within a feasible economic framework. So for us, this was the beginning of the realization that small inspirations could realign our engagement to the environment and affect the way we experience architecture at every scale. For example here, taking a typical roof construction system and forming it to create a form that interacts more fluidly with the path of the sun.
Okay, so what's going on with us now and architecture in general? So at a place like the Center for Architecture, Science, and Ecology, architects and actual scientists are researching natural systems to redefine how we build. So in this case, a facade system, a dynamic enclosure, is filtering natural light, much like that of a tree or a forest canopy. And in another project that the researchers affectionately call climate camouflage, a wall is literally tuned to its environment. So in this case, a wall is no longer seen as a barrier to the outside, but rather as participating in the flows from the interior and nature.
With this new information, architects can incorporate intelligent, high-performance assemblies and systems that invest in fundamental issues of architecture, including material, energy, space, time, and information. In other words, choreographing the flows of architecture. What do we mean when we talk about flow? We're talking about movement not only in terms of the way that elements react to one another in a system, but more importantly, the way they negotiate the matrix in which they exist. So specifically here, the way that the birds interact fluidly with the turbulence in the atmosphere.
So while a building used to be conceived of as a self-contained object isolated from its environment, this new interest in natural phenomenon has shifted the art of building design to a process to one that is more concerned with connection to the environment. So this represents a paradigm shift from the inert to the fluid. So if we can build new structures, if the structures that we build can respond to their environmental pressures rather than boxing them out per se, we can create dynamic buildingscapes that create microclimates much like those found in nature.
In a series of projects awarded to us in the country of Kazakhstan, natural processes inspired an erosion of a typical office tower. Using advanced computation, flows of light, view, wind, and the internal functions of the building carved the structures to create unique interactions between the landscape, the skin, and the internal floor plates of the building. So as you can see here, we found opportunities to actually pull lines of the landscape literally into the building and up to create vertical gardens. At a smaller and more humble scale, yes, the virtual interactions of two different curves interacting with the sun create a dynamic moire pattern that create ever-changing shadows on the ground that it projects to.
So incorporating these same architectural techniques at yet another scale and applying them to an undulating facade, could a building be designed that would have a range of spaces that could be tuned to seasonal change? So in a brutally cold environment like that of Kazakhstan's, a geometry could be designed that would create microclimates within it that would allow gardens to thrive year-round. So likewise, articulations on the facade would let these flows spill out to the exterior of the project. So flows and articulations like this could be applied at any scale of building, from the largest project down to the wall of a house.
So recent investigations in the worlds of architecture and science lead us to a broader understanding of how what we build interacts with the environment at every level. Can we, as architects, envision a relationship with nature that is symbiotic or perhaps even productive? If so, we can push design beyond sustainability to literally sponsor new architectural landscapes that redefine the nature of the spaces that we occupy. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.